Sony slashes PS VR2 headset output after pre-orders disappoint. We're pulling a Bloomberg article from Takashi Mochizuki. Sony Corporation Group reduced projections for the initial launch of its PlayStation VR2 headset dramatically after pre-orders disappointed, signaling little improvement for the hyped but unproven virtual reality sector. The company halved its forecast for shipments of the PSVR 2, which is set for a February 22nd release date this quarter, to about 1 million units, said people familiar with its deliberations. Sony had previously aimed to have 2 million headsets ready for launch quarter and leverage its second-generation headset to drive user growth and for VR. The Tokyo-based electronics giant has told a supply partner to expect reduced display panel orders, according to the people who asked not to be named as the information is not public. The company now plans to ship around 1.5 million units between this April and March next year. They added, though that figure may be adjusted further in response to demand. Sony shares erased gains after the news in Tokyo Tuesday, ending the day just below where they started. So, PSVR 2 headset, we're reducing our manufacturing. The pre-orders don't seem to be there. That's very unfortunate because I think this was sort of a make or break thing for Sony's VR branch, and I don't know if it'll ever really bounce back. I personally would like it to, because I think VR is an established sector of gaming as of right now, but I mean, let's just cut to the chase here. PlayStation, you marketed you priced your VR headset too high. It was $550, I believe, is the price for it.
$549.
$549. Yeah, that's way higher than anybody was really expecting or wanting, and that's really disappointing. And you kind of don't have the goods to match it. Like, there's only so much Horizon Call of the Mountain can do. There's only so much ports of games like Moss Book 2 can do to excite the audience. Gran Turismo 7 coming with a fully fledged out VR mode where you can play the whole game in VR is nice, but it's not enough. You're marketing to a niche of your base, and I think the numbers are showing that. Like, you needed more guns and you needed bigger guns. Like, Horizon was not enough. Where is a Naughty Dog VR game? Where's an Insomniac VR game? Where's a Sony Santa Monica VR game, or a Sucker Punch one? We're just kind of left, holding a headset that's going to collect dust in a couple of months. You did not give us enough reason, enough justification to invest in a thing that's just too much.
Yeah, and not to mention, you have to have a PS5 to have this work in the first place, which supply chain issues affected it for a long time. Now we're actually starting to see people be able to get them easier. They're appearing in stores now, but it's still something that you got to sink a bunch of money into just to also play a VR system, which, how much is that? Minimum $400 plus $549 for the headset. At that point, I think most reasonable people would just go buy a PC. Because it has way more uses than a VR headset will have, which is just obviously to play games. With a PC, you can also get a cheaper VR system if you want to test the waters of VR. Because most people also haven't played VR. I saw how it looks, and it looks very nice, but not enough for me to sink money into it. You've done the same as well, Tavin. You also don't have room for it as well, which is another issue that you have to take into effect. It's not like a PS5 or a PC where as long as you find a place to set your system, you can play whatever games you want. You have to have the room for it. And some people, frankly, don't have that room. So, and as you said before, it doesn't have the games. So there's really no incentive as of right now, so early on in the VR stage as well, to want to be this invested into a game console when you don't have the money to spend for it. They really shouldn't have priced it at $549. I remember when we covered it, we were surprised at how much it was, and that it needed to be with a PS5, and now I think it's showing on their back end, with people not wanting to reserve them, especially because, we want to know it works in the first place, because it is new technology. So a lot of people aren't going to be like, oh, I want to pre-order it and be the first one to get it. A lot of people, like myself, want to see how it plays, how the games are on it. if it even works when it comes out, because once again, it is new technology, and new technology can be fickle. Look at Stadia. It was something that was hyped up by a pretty large margin of the gaming community, and then it failed miserably. It sucked. One of the worst consoles to be released in the past couple of years.
Whoa! It failed for different reasons.
It did.
It's not.
It failed for
It's
reasons.
not the one-to-one translation. There.
Well, it is different new technology that wasn't as good as it could have been. Wasn't as optimized. So it didn't work.
The technology wasn't the main problem with Stadia. It was an element of it. There's large portions of the world that can't. It's not ready for streaming, but streaming is the future. Like, it's coming. We're gonna get there eventually. The problem is that Stadia wasn't marketed correctly. It wasn't structured correctly. You had to subscribe to a thing and then still buy full games. That's weird and confusing. And then Google didn't commit to it, and Google didn't spend the time to get enough people onboarded to bring games to the platform. Here, it's entirely in a Sony house, where we've seen PlayStation come out with different peripherals, different consoles, different ideas, and then not support them on the back end. Things like, this feels very much to me like PlayStation Move, where, what was that called? That movement gaming?
I can't even remember.
I can't even remember what we used to call it. But yeah, that like Wii era, that Nintendo Wii area of everything needed to have motion behind it and get the gamer off the couch. PlayStation put out their version of that. It wasn't as nice as the other versions. They didn't support it in the ways that they should, and then slowly and surely closed it down. We saw similar behavior with the PlayStation Vita. And so now we're in this new space with the PSVR2 where, okay, you had a successful first version of this based off of, I believe, PlayStation's own expectations, which was what they said, and the output they had. They had games that people liked. You think of Moss. You think of what's that shooter game that everybody likes? There was Blood on the Leaves, and there was Super Hot, and there was third-party selections such as like Job Simulator and so forth. But now virtual reality is in a place where we're not looking for experiences anymore. We're not looking for moments, cool gimmick type games where you're like, oh, cool, I'm moving it around with my actual hands. Now we're looking for full things. We're looking for real experiences. We're looking for full priced games. We see this on PC and on Oculus and MetaQuest and things like that. We're just looking for the one real game that is the breakout and makes you go, oh, I need this. And I don't know if Horizon Call of the Mountain has that juice. It does look great. It does look fun. I'm sure it's going to come out and get lots of great scores. But one, it's already proven that it seems like Horizon as an IP is just kind of cursed and just isn't connecting with the people like PlayStation would like it to connect, which is unfortunate because they are good games, quality games, and I'm sure Call of the Mountain is going to be quality as well. But now you've put so many gates in front of that game to where it's just hard to care. And I think it's apparent with how little it's being marketed. At least, like, I'm not seeing this game comes out this console comes out this month. I'm seeing nothing about it. And I think that's a failure of Sony. Like, you're not marketing your console correctly. You're not setting up your console for success. And it's hard to care about something when you make it so hard to the onboarding isn't there. We're not on board with PlayStation VR2. And this is coming from someone who would like a PlayStation VR2.
Yeah, but as I laid out earlier, and as you obviously have laid out as well, too many barriers. It's not viable, especially for most people nowadays. I mean, prices have been increasing across the board. Groceries cost more. Subscription services have even upped their prices in some areas. Just more and more things are costing more and more money. And on the background of this, when they're trying to release a VR system that's new and expensive, a lot of people aren't going to want to take the dive, and reasonably so. You can't expect them to.
But at the same time, that's not PlayStation's fault.
No, that part's not. But it's bad timing. Yeah. That's the bad timing of the release of it as well. So it just makes it all more difficult to sell this thing, and it doesn't seem like they're doing a good job of it. And maybe, who knows? Maybe it'll come out and it'll be like, oh, this thing plays amazingly. There's a lot of fun games that you need to play, and then it kicks up in games and how many people buy them. But I don't see that happening from what we've seen so
the
far.
Previews I've seen have all been very glowing. People seem to like the PlayStation VR2. It's just, is Sony going to support it, or is it going to go the way of the Vita, the way of the Move, the way of all of these other other homes, PlayStation Home, that, or PlayStation TV, all of these things that was cool and neat and people loved and there was a fan base for, but Sony didn't support it. And really, I think it would be nice if Horizon Call of the Mountain comes out and everybody loves it. But if Call of the Mountain gets the same reception that, say, an Uncharted Golden Abyss got, dead in the water. Like the whole platform is done.